Hi there, Ron Villaver here of Variable Play, and welcome to Open Game Night.
Hola, mi amigos and amigas. Hey, it's open game night. Hello, good evening,
Open Game
everybody.
Night, everyone. How are you? How are
Yeah,
you? Happy Thursday.
Thursday, 2 weeks after Conquest. Imagine
So,
that. We're still
yeah,
alive.
yeah, yes, we did not get sick,
With you guys didn't get sick,
so
I
that's good.
did.
Yeah, but not at least not COVID. So,
Yes,
I think there was
that's the
one
important
of us
thing. Yes.
that among the whole team of 50 volunteers, we only had one that contracted COVID. Fortunately,
And
everybody
that's one too
was
many.
very
That's still
safe.
one too many.
Yes, of course, of course. So we're fortunate that we were able to, maintain good safe distancing and people were safe. All
Yeah.
right.
We were
Hey,
reporting
Dan
each
and
other
Lynn.
every day.
Good
Hey
evening.
Dan, hey, how are you?
How are you? How are you?
Cool,
So,
cool, cool.
what have you been up to? Playing or
Me? Not
buying?
much. Aside, well, when it
Well,
comes to adding cards, no, not really. I've been following up with my orders regarding the last expansion for with the latest. I can't say last of the Dungeons and Dragons system, adventure system board game. So there's that.
nice,
Um,
nice.
I've been playing digitally. I've been playing a game called Wolf Stride, a very unique black and white pixel game with very high
Okay, you
robot
intrigued me
animation.
with pixel art.
Yeah, pixel art,
You,
and it's
you know,
black and white, and it's not bad. It's pretty good. It's an indie developer, and then it actually has a very highly anime influence theme with giant robots, but it's not just purely about that. There's a story to be
nice.
held, and it's not for kids.
Oh, okay, okay, fair enough, fair enough.
There's I mean no, it's not bad. It's just that the colorful language. That's it. That's all.
Okay,
Wolf Stride.
okay,
How about you,
that's
Ron?
pretty
What
cool.
what have you been playing?
Um, also, what I have bought recently is So you guys remember that I lost my Kemet
Yeah, you
because it
have.
was flooded, and so I finally was able to track down a copy and opened up the original. So I the whole time I did not open up the backed up and sort of really soaked box. I stored it so that it will dry up a bit. So fortunately, sleeving your cards work. Number one,
Ooh.
because you see pretty much the box is wet, got wet. The um, the board also sort of glued together already. But the tiles,
Mm-hmm.
because I would put them in baggies, they were protected. Of course,
Oh, good.
um, the miniatures and the token also in containers, so they also survived. The battle cards, so they kind of look they stuck together, but and warped a little bit, but actually they were saved because of the sleeves, so they didn't
Oh, that's such a
really
good
get
move.
damaged.
Yeah. Galing.
The only one that had slight damage is the DI, sort of like the divine intervention cards. There were small cards in
Mm.
Kemet, and some of them um, did not have sleeves on them, and they kind of got
Ooh.
stuck together. So I'm having those
Wow.
sort of dry out further, but that means that generally cards wise, all good. So it's really the board that I lost in the box itself.
That's it. Hey, that
Um,
ain't so bad. The
but
board itself can be actually be replaced, right?
ain't bad, ain't bad. So I was able to track down a copy and started to replace things. I have to find the sleeves now to replace with the original set. The challenge with that is that it has an expansion in it. So that was my biggest worry.
Mm.
It's easy to get the base set,
Oh.
but base set and expansion, and then sort of redo that, it's gonna be painful. But fortunately, um, the most of the even the rule book survived because
Mm.
somehow,
Oh.
based on how I positioned them, the rule book got a bit damaged. You can see sort of like you have to like kind of stare a little bit
Sticky pages.
to open up. Yes, a little bit of sticky pages, but I can just have them really dry off until they're okay.
Oh
But at least
wow.
rule book is there. Um, some of the player guides got a bit damaged. I can have those printed.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah. I'm happy
Wow.
that that's the damage. Even if it was pretty much soaked. But you can already see, and also the reason why I wanted to um, leave the cards to dry out a bit more is because you could smell the mold in the box. Then you can see it on the
Nice.
sides that it really
Yeah.
accumulated mold. So that's gonna be thrown off. But
That's
fortunately, I have
our most
I
common
have the
enemy of board
replacement.
gamers.
Yeah, rainwater flood. So at least that is safe. I'm happy that it turned out not so bad. And then in terms of what I recently played, so I have been playing. So for board games, I've been trying out the new app for Everdell. Good
Oh
evening,
yeah,
Mark.
yeah.
Hi.
It
Hi,
just
Mark.
came out. Hey Mark.
Yes.
Good evening.
So really cute. Get people a feel of
It's
the app.
Everdale.
It
It has
is
to be cute.
really adorable. There's only one odd thing that I noticed. Hi, Marinella. Thank you for
Hey.
joining.
Hello.
So the odd thing with Everdell, the app is so pretty. It's so cute. Sounds, the interface. Your workers are r- like cute 3D animals, and you pick them up, and they and they
Oh,
and they like move their feet. It's like
so there's
where
still
where you
tokens.
where
Okay. There's
so
still
your
tokens.
worker meeples are like cute 3D
Alive.
animals that sort of alive and like they wiggle their feet when you're moving them around. And now because of this 3D aspect, there's just this odd thing that in a like your brain is going, oh, so if I want to drop this here, then you're sort of like
Mm-hmm.
anticipating the plane, and your hand tends to move a little bit forward in accordance with the plane. The thing
Yeah.
is, the drop zone is still your fingertip, not
Oh,
not the
okay.
dangling thing. So your brain just constantly gets confused. Like, why is it not activating? Oh, okay. I have to mouse over with my fingertip, not the tail of the animal that I'm dropping to. So
Normally
that's
in 3D games like that, you actually look for shadow.
right,
Okay,
right,
I put the shadow over here, and wherever the shadow is, that's where I will drop that item. In
correct,
this
correct,
case, since
correct.
the application, it's a tip of the finger. There's no shadow.
Exactly. There's no shadow. And you're right. It doesn't. There's no shadow. So what you do is that when your finger is now at that drop zone, finally the drop zone lights up, where sort of the worker zone. So that's the only thing that I found a little bit odd. Other than that, yeah, so super adorable.
We have a question
How
here.
was
Yeah, there
the
we go.
tutorial for Everdell? Um, it's actually quite good. It taught the game. I believe it was able to really teach the game quite well. So it was a good refresher for me. I know how to play Everdell already, but going through the tutorial and they structured it so that you learn this part first, and then at the second phase, you get to learn a little bit more of like how the things interact. and then it will give you sort of like a freeform um, feel of, okay, try to achieve this, and then you can move on. What's interesting is there's a portion where you can throw cards for resources, and just for the heck of it, I decided, oh,
Free.
okay, what if I throw everything away, like all of my cards, just to sort of mess up the game. And guess what? They sort of anticipated that, or I didn't read what it wanted me to do. They sort of anticipated that, and it was totally fine because what happened next is like, oh, so since you don't have any more cards, like, oh, okay, you can play this. Like, huh, interesting. Like, cool.
Compensation
It's
for no, that's good.
yeah, yeah.
That's forward thinking from the
So
developers. That's good.
yes, yes. So even if there are players that maybe are not necessarily reading the text, they are still given that leg room to learn the game. So I think that was pretty nice. So I'm excited to play a few more rounds of that to sort of enjoy like how's the challenge, how's the AI. So that one I haven't really gone in deep enough. So probably I will be doing a run
Hey, Michael.
for those. Hey Michael, good evening. Thank you for joining. There's another game that I have been
Oh,
spending more time with. This one, it
mm,
brings me back to my um, high school, sort of like, oh, I want to squeeze in a few minutes of this game. And it's not
Magic
Diablo,
the
although
Gathering.
I have that. No, no, it is Divinity Original Sin 2.
Oh,
So,
okay. That's
yeah,
wow. Wow. Yeah, wow.
yeah,
That's such a good game. Same the base
it is old.
for the Baldur's Gate 3. Divinity Original
Yes,
Sin 2 was the base of why they were chosen to build the Baldur's Gate 3
correct.
game. And oh my goodness, that game, wow, yeah. That's such a good
Yeah.
game with all different kinds of
So
options, and the character creation alone will take you about an hour or more.
I tried to like I wanted to play the game. I want to experience it. I've tried Divinity Original Sin 1, and I
Yes,
knew just
one.
how big the game is. And so coming in, I said, okay, I can play this again. So let me just pick a character, whatever there, that's good enough, that's fine. Let's go. And I liked how they introduced the game a little bit better without any spoilers, as
Mm-hmm.
compared to one where you're like, hey, here's how the game plays, and then boom, here's the world that you are gonna work with. Oh, by the way, that's just the city map that you start in, and then here's the rest of the world you haven't seen. I'm like, okay, this looks really daunting, but at the same time, so with two, the way they progress you at the beginning, it was a little bit unnerving for me. Like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Why? What's the storyline? What's going on? But eventually, after you sort of unlock the first few parts, and you get to like this critical decision point, you've gone a bit of fighting, and then you're like, oh, well, I want to role play, so I go, oh, there's no more time. We gotta do this, and then the game just suddenly teaches you, you know what? Every decision you make in this game is
The chain effect.
relevant, and it changes
Yes.
everything you will be doing for the rest of your game experience. So when I sort of move on to the next section, that's where I realized, oh my gosh, there was agency there. I could have decided otherwise, and the game would have let me,
Yes.
flesh it out.
Yes.
Like, okay, load, load.
Okay, reload.
I want
Hey,
to push
the
this
magic
because
of reload and quick saves.
yes,
Oh,
yes, that
what
game
what
you
what
will
I do like
save a
about
lot.
the I do like about the combat in that game is that they actually utilize the environment and not just your skills of the character. So if there's water
Yes,
on the feet of a enemy and you have a thunder spell, imagine mo the chain
yeah,
reaction with thunder and electricity on the feet, or oil and fire. Imagine that.
yep,
So
yep, and
the
kind of
Using
annoying
the environment is
at
actually
times
gonna.
because you are, you're just walking and you're just
Yeah, and
sending
then
one of
suddenly
your
someone.
guys to approach the other one, but they accidentally trip a barrel of oil just for some reason that it's there, and it just so happened that they're also a little bit on fire, and then boom, it just explodes, and everybody around gets like, I didn't
Oh
want that to
man,
happen, but yeah, game is, and I'm playing it on the iPad, and that's the reason why
iPad.
I
There you
got
go.
a
I was gonna
controller.
ask you where you were playing it. Yeah.
So I'm playing it on the iPad, and it was the main reason why I got a controller for the iPad. Was like, oh, wow. I mean, it plays really well, movement wise, selecting,
It's so
interacting
good,
with the
Hannah.
characters, opening up the menus, and what I'm doing right now is I was trying to not be a completionist and realizing the game is also giving you so much content in that path. Like, oh, you just want to barrel through? Well, guess what? I'm gonna allow that. I'm gonna give you those those things, and here's what you can do, and here's what's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
wow,
But
the
what
developers
you
of this game,
what you do not know is that you actually cut off some other storyline parts, which was your decision in the first place, right? Which is fine.
exactly, you
It's
cut off
good.
some of the storyline parts, but it also opens up other storylines.
Correct.
Like
Yes.
it's
The
sort of
developers
like
have thought
there's
about
no,
everything there.
yeah, and it's as if there's no really one way to play it. There's always a different way that you can explore. And I'm like, I wish I was
That's
in high
correct.
school again and I don't have responsibilities and I can just play
You
for
play the whole day.
hours. Like I
I'm
don't
not
need to.
okay. I'm not too sure
Yeah.
about the iPad version, but that game was also advertised to have a dungeon master mode, which was actually used by Matt Mercer in a certain segment way back when it first came out.
Yeah.
A dungeon master could
Wait,
control the
isn't that
environment and yeah.
isn't that the other one from Paizo? I think that's different.
No, no, no,
You're
it's
talking
still the
about a
same.
different game.
Yeah, no, no, I'm not. It's the same game. The Divinity 2.
Pathfinder.
Yes,
Pathfinder
Pathfinder. Yeah, actually,
had
they
the
do.
Kingmaker.
Pathfinder
Is it
has.
or something
Yeah,
like that?
it had a adventure creator, but you had to import it
Okay.
to to what do you call this, to online for people to play your stage. Now in this case the
Okay. Gotcha.
Divinity actually is a DM mode. Literally, you there was a video
Oh.
with Matt Mercer and his in a group where they actually played the game, but Matt Mercer on the fly was able to create the world
Wow.
and add monsters as they play, because he created a an adventure, short adventure, but real time dungeon mastering in the game itself.
I don't think it has that. It felt like a lot of the sort of customization upstream has been sort of
Mm,
minimized to really get sort of like that mobile, let's get going type of experience.
yeah.
Um, so I'm not sure, but if I'm not mistaken, I
Maybe
do have online play, and
Eglin.
like it does have online play, and I think it's compatible with the rest of the network, so Steam and wherever else it can be played.
Hmm.
So
Which means
I don't know.
which means
I don't know.
it's we can try multiplayer. There
We
is
could.
multiplayer in the game.
My
Yeah.
character is crappy right now. It's wearing tattered.
What are you, a
I have
human?
graduated
Uh,
from the bucket. Okay, I am no
yeah, yeah,
longer
from the
using the
bucket. Yeah,
bucket
from the bucket.
as my helmet. I have an unpaired snake cloak with some mage robes,
Also, you're a
some
mage.
leather
You're a
boots.
magic user. You're a human magic
Yes,
user.
I think she's human. Yeah, I think she's human.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely
I,
sure.
I
Hey,
chose a
Levy.
basic dwarven
Mm,
fighter. You know,
nice.
if all else fails, at least my main character can hold off the enemies while everyone else shoots fireballs. That's also a good thing in the game. every
Yeah,
NPC you find that can join your party, you choose their class.
their
They're not
class.
set.
Yeah,
Yes, they're not set as what
yeah,
they are.
yeah, yeah. Which is pretty interesting. Like they approach. Oh, okay. I help you out. You help me. Okay, let's work together. So I'm good at this. This is my expertise. But if that's not what you want, I can be this, or that. Like,
Yeah,
okay. But
that's good.
being very new to the game, it's like I don't know. Whatever you're good at.
So your default is okay. I'll use the default. That's
Yeah.
okay.
So
It
my
gives you
team
a
is a
choice. That's the
motley
thing. Yeah.
crew. I have a mage. I have like a sort of warrior. I have sort of like a battle mage and uh, a rogue. So
A rogue. Yeah. Stealing
sadly,
is
the
such an
only
important
ranger
thing.
in my team is my conjurer of sorts. So the girl is the only one that's able to cast spells. The others could cast spells, but it was funny because I also made a mistake of like changing her weapon to a staff, thinking the staff can cast spells. It started like, oh,
What?
I needed to like come near and but she seems to be like a battle mage, so I can sort of rush into the battle with a move or sort. So
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, that
okay,
charge. Yeah, that's
yeah, so
useful. Oh
cool.
wow, dude. Here's a little
Yeah,
question for
so
you about that game. Did you kill the cat?
I did not kill the cat, but I slaughtered the people that did.
And that's how the game is played.
It's
You're
like,
trying to save the cat, kill the people.
like why did you? The cat had nothing to do with you. We just approached one area and the cat, they just killed the cat, and I just saw the body of the cat. Like that guy was
Oh,
following us the whole
someone
time.
killed the cat.
Yeah,
Oh. Ah,
some magisters killed it. Like, okay, let's go.
you
Kill
killed
all
my
of
cat.
yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, and
But
that's
apparently
only the
it
beginning,
becomes a
folks.
good familiar,
Yeah.
right?
It leads you somewhere. Anyways, I won't spoil it. Anyways, so
Well,
oh,
I'm
you
not
think
gonna
you're gonna
experience that anymore because it
well,
died.
that's only the beginning. Wow,
I don't
guys,
want to repeat
everyone should
so much.
everyone should try that game. That game is such. I actually
Yeah.
have it on PC and in Switch, and the Switch version actually can save online, so you can download it on Steam, so you can
There you
continue
go.
your game.
So such a good
There
game.
you go. Yeah,
Really, really cool. And
we'll try multiplayer, Ron. We'll try multiplayer. I'd love to play an
go.
adventure D&D style game with you on digital. Nice.
Sige, let's try that. Maybe we can stream it. Okay.
Hey, why not?
Speaking of, playing all of these games and sort of having that decision of control over what's gonna happen and
Mm,
also the randomness of things
of your
with
battles, yeah.
tabletop, you know, it is often this very sort of like a challenging formula. When is a game too random? When is a game it is random but it's still fun? Why is a game like too complex even if it's quite simple, but because you have complete control over everything, it now becomes exponentially complex. And when is it that you do have control over everything, but you enjoy the experience?
Yes, yes.
And so
That's that.
that's our topic for today, and you guys, the people who are joining our stream, can feel free to join us. What games do you feel are too random, or yes, they're random, but I still love them, or and the games that are too much control, or yes, I control everything, but I love it. Okay. So we
Okay,
can share
cool.
about the games that we like, the games that we don't like, in those aspects, and sort of dissect what's going on. Why is it why do this? And I'm gonna compare two games here, uh, in terms of why is one more appreciated versus it's mechanically the same as this game. Why is the
Okay, go
one
ahead.
another one more uh, you know frowned upon? So the games that I'm comparing is Munchkin, where
Okay, there you go.
you know it it feels very random. I kick the door
It
open,
does. And
and
when the match comes out,
some
yes.
bad person comes out, and you go, "Huh, I can't do that.
Huh.
Will you guys help me?" And people can help you, but then decide to also screw you.
That's also the randomness
Uh,
of the game,
yes,
relying on
but you have to help each
player
other, otherwise
decision.
nobody's gonna progress. So the game drags on forever because if
Hmm.
people are not in the spirit of helping each other, there's no way for the game to end. Um, and then the progress of the game, the way to win is also how you not really lose, but how you lose your progress. So you gain a level. If you lose, you also lose levels and stuff. You sort of fall down the ladder that you're going through. And
Imagine
then
losing your
compare
level
that.
in a game. I'm level 5 and now I'm level 3 again. Again. That
Yes.
sucks.
So, and it's not as bad as Snakes and Ladder, where if you don't hit the end exactly, you
Oh
jump
yeah,
back
that's
to the
right.
start, or you
That's
or you
that's
walk
that's
backwards.
worse.
Not really sense. And then compare that to Moonrakers. Moonrakers is you you also have to cooperate. You have to work together. So when you go into a mission, there's almost always that whatever you have on your hand is not enough to complete the mission. So you need help. And now the way you guys sort of decide how you help each other is by divvying up the loot that you will get if
Yes.
you're able to meet the demands of the mission. You go, hey, I have a lot of shields or something to defend today, so I'll take the damage die. But I want some points. Okay, that will leave me the experience in this resource. Okay, I'm good with that. Let's go for it. Or somebody can. I also want to help. Okay, so we're already good. So what do you want? Oh, I just want um this, and you guys can decide again. So
Yeah.
that one somehow is negotiation. It's still quite random, but feels okay. Even if it is exactly the same thing that you have to do in Munchkin. I don't know. Well, maybe because it's too simplistic in Munchkin.
Is it presented as much better than in Munchkin? I don't know. I mean, it's the same mechanic, the
It
same
is.
output.
Yes. I think the when people say no in Munchkin, people can throw bad things at you and sort of reduce or pump up the monster, and that's kind of why it's more annoying because the take that aspect of the game is much stronger. They kind of can do the same thing in Moonrakers, because if you're unable to perform or not play the cards that you don't want to play, then suddenly you guys all fail anyway, and you sort of like lose out,
Exactly.
and that person just gets damaged, and you're like, oh, we did,
If
that was how we divvied it up. So you take the damage die, great. That's actually what I wanted to happen. So maybe it's just not as in your face, and as compared to traditional take that games where here's
you can actually do
some
something
poop I throw in your
immediately.
face. Yeah, and the immediate
Yeah.
effect is so it's not obfuscated. There's no
Yeah.
layer that differentiates player intention versus the effect of their actions. So if the intention
Exactly.
of the player is more apparent and more equated to, oh, you're really against me, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
take that for as a reminder for this game and for the rest of the game night. to make your game
Yeah,
experience
make your game
the
as
most.
miserable as possible because I have
Yes.
I just plan to mess your game with all of my randomness for you.
Yep.
Well, from my point of view, okay, first of all, what comes to mind when you say randomness in games, in tabletop games actually? The most common go-to mechanic is the dice. 'Cause it's the most
Dice.
easiest, it's the easiest mechanic
Yes.
you can actually input in a game. Designers use it all the time to make sure that there's immediate results. And it presents that aspect of, again, randomness doesn't really mean just dice. It's card shuffling, it's card drawing, it's just those things that you cannot control. Now for
Yep.
me, the problem is not exactly the randomness. And based on an article I read, the problem is not that you randomly get something, or you have you're relying on a human aspect to do something for you for the game, but it's the main thing is the lack of control that you actually don't have.
Right. Mhm.
So that's the problem, and that's what people
Mm.
don't really look at much. Okay, so people complain, oh, I hate dice. Oh, I don't like the fact that I get random things, or I'm relying on people to lie for me or do something for me in order for me to game. But what they really are complaining about really is that I have no control. There's nothing I can
Right.
control about
Yep.
this,
Yep. Yep.
and that's
Yeah.
what pisses people off in gaming tabletop.
Mm.
But again, some people actually enjoy that. Why? There are two. Based on the article I've read, there are two things to see these things in. First of all, why add the randomness into the game versus that of a game that requires pure skill? Okay,
Mhm.
the most basic example, chess. Right? If you're good in chess,
Yep.
and if you keep on playing,
Which
if
is
you,
the direct
yeah,
opposite.
your skill gets up. You destroy.
Everything
You
is
improve
known.
the.
There is
Yeah,
nothing
everything's known.
unknown.
Correct, exactly. And also the fact that the more you practice chess, or at least a game that's skill related, the dichotomy of that, the difference between you and the other player will be obvious. Now, the point of view here is that would a player
Mm.
like to
Yep.
be would like to play all the time with players who are very much practiced in that game and they'll always win, or that element of randomness that actually levels the playing field. Diba? That's the thing
Right.
eh.
Right.
Um,
Right.
uh, th- but here's a question, Ron. When is a game too much when is randomness too much in the game? How much randomness is too much randomness?
So, we have Clint, who made a comment. He said, "It's too
From
random. You
your
can't plan your next turn. Kasi the whole game state changes significantly in other players' turn." Um, I think you're very much on point on it's. I think games that are very volatile, they have a lot of changing parts, but they give you enough tools to give you control to tackle the changes that are in front of you. I think it's sort of that balancing portion where is that enough to give players enjoyment that hey, I have a new puzzle in front of me. How do I deal with that with the cards in my hand? And then adapt to the tactical aspect of that random event
Yeah,
that happened. If it's
yeah,
simply here's a random event, you guys get hit, and there's nothing you can do about it, and then do that again every round, and at the same time, another player. So just, let's take a simple one. Let's say you're playing Monopoly, and every round you land on somebody's property. They've
property.
been
Yeah,
rolling, and so they're making money off
you lose
you, and
money.
they just sort of you know gingerly hop over your property, so you
Your
never get
property.
anything
Yes.
back, and it sort of get piled on. that would feel random because there's nothing you can do about it. You roll and that you have to resolve
Yes.
whatever it said there. There's no decision there. As
It's
compared
like
to
as if the game is playing you rather than you playing the game
right,
because you have
yep,
no control.
yep, yes. So I think a game is too random if you have no control. If you have uh, very little control over the outcome, and exactly as if the game is already playing you, why are you there? Then that feels very random. I think a little step further is games, because of sort of the modern design, are already being engineered so that they will have sort of this enjoyment curve. They start slow and then you build up, and sort of you start to create more things, more decisions, but the enjoyment is much better because you have a better understanding. And a game is too random if at any point in time you can just be reset back to zero, just sort of
That
lose things. And ah,
can you guys could you guys in the comments
that
give us
negative
a name
feeling
of a game
that
that does that? Oh, God.
uh
It
so
brings you
things
back to
like
zero.
well, games that have a lot of skill resource mechanics,
Yeah.
where here's
Mm.
my here's my progress, and oh, well, I got this card. Your opponent has this card, and then just shows you whatever you got. Those are mine now. Well, we can take Monopoly Deal for example. That's kind of the
Yeah. Okay.
same
That.
thing.
There you go.
I play a card,
More or less.
and you see that set that you are completing. It's almost there, right? That's mine now.
That's not mine
Oh,
now. Steal a whole set. Oh wow.
not a
You see,
whole
you
set.
have
Normally,
half
the
the.
whole set you get to lock it down, but like one step away,
But
and
you
then
can,
oh,
diba?
I think
Oh
you can.
wow. Yeah. That's a good point. A very good point. Oh, we have
Yeah,
a comment here from Miss
yeah. Let's
Marinella.
bring it up. This discussion reminds me of Terra Mystica as a good example wherein the randomness is only in the setup. There's a little different time, so the same solution doesn't work every time. But it keeps the game fresh. Yes, agree. But player decisions are the driving force of sort of randomness in the game. Uh,
It's human interaction,
Chess, for
human
example, it
reaction.
is it's actually all based on players' decisions. And the thing that why chess becomes
Mm.
infinitely more difficult, as compared to traditional board games, your every move you make is visible to your opponent. There's only one person, and you both are looking at the same game stage, and every plan you build uh, is all revealed. You you can sort of hide, but it's hiding through theories, and just a little bit on chess speak already.
Through
There
yeah.
where
Okay.
uh it's interesting to see tournaments, and they would go, oh, we've reached a new realm. We haven't seen this game state before, and I'm going like, what do you mean you haven't seen this game state before? I mean, how is that
It's
even
always been
possible?
there.
But what it just means is, on all professional matches, that they have a whole database of all the moves that were created. There are certain game states that has not yet been experienced in every database.
That's right. There's still
So
a
whenever
combination of
they see
scenarios and
that,
steps that
the
no.
people are reacting like, okay, this is totally new, a whole new world that we haven't seen, and suddenly now it's again because of the players' control over the game. The randomness is now really dependent on players. Euro games, like what Marinella mentioned, is very much uh, it loves that realm. It loves. Okay, I don't want to give you dice. Maybe dice, but they're not used for rolling. They're just used to indicate whatever action you
Counters,
have.
yeah.
Or even if there
Counter.
are dice, I will give you the options of to draft which die you want to use. things like this, they always want player control. Um, and kind of like Terra Mystica, sometimes, I'm not saying Terra Mystica is this, the amount of control becomes overwhelming. So
Yeah.
things like, well, I remember this game, Zango. Zango is a Euro game. You are sort of the sort of building back the Chinese Empire. You have to you have options to build up the wall. You have options to improve the provinces. But as you do certain things, your sort of that province where you interacted, it would build up unrest, and that's sort of like a control mechanic in the game. But the action that you will do every turn, very simple. You will just play a card. You play a card, and depending whether it's higher or lower than the previous card, it will decide how you can use that card. So, super simple main rule. However, once you've activated that, the branches of that decision so many that when we are playing the game, it consumes a lot more brain power because of all of the rules and options that you have that in your arsenal. That so I think is where too much control kind of comes in, where I have so many things I can do. I have complete control over my destiny. Now the question is, am I able to figure out the best one to take?
That's actually a good mechanic kasi what do you call this? When there's control, again, you decide everything. The thing is, the fun part of having the mechanics that there are choices involved.
Mm.
Without those choices involved in the game, everything just becomes straightforward, which is again most pure skill games are actually based upon, right?
Yep.
I mean, if there are choice, example, Miss Marinella said here that Castle Burgundy is also a prime example of this kind of Euro games. Actually, yes, but this thing in Castle Burgundy there are two dice, and normally in a two dice game, again, if you talk about dice, sometimes you don't have pure control on where you're going, where the game plays you. But in Castle Burgundy is a good example where the two dice actually gives you options and choices within that game, and you're not stuck with only whatever the dice shows you. Which also brings me to another game, Machikoro. Machikoro gives you a choice of single or two dice eventually in the game, right?
Yep.
Which gives you also the opportunity to control.
It sort of gives you a premise of randomness, right? Because it's pretty much Settlers of Catan or Monopoly, where I roll the die and see what happens. However, just that small addition of I'll give you two dice instead, and then you get to choose which one to activate. Now
that
you
helps.
can sort of min max and sort of build up your tableau to address that random, and now it becomes part of the enjoyment of the game. As compared, this is what came out, deal with it. Actually, not deal with it, perform whatever happens, and then suffer the consequences.
Because for me, naman, my example would be that Monopoly has already a set number of places where to go, which you have no control of.
Yep.
In contrast to that, my favorite game, Talisman, their countermeasure to the dice rolling and dice and move, which is one of the most very very much looked down upon mechanic. Roll and move.
Yeah, roll and move.
Talisman counters the roll and move with random events that you go to. So it doesn't really matter how far or how near you walk in the game with the dice, but the randomness of all of the events in the game makes the game, at least for me and for some people I know, enjoyable. That's where the fun is. It's not the roll of dice. You don't really care about the roll and move mechanic. It's the fact that you want to know what's gonna happen because you don't know what's gonna happen, and therefore that's where the no control part of the game comes in, which makes it exciting. And from a gamer's perspective, back to the question about when is it good to have more randomness? If it's a party game, folks, if it's a party game, Randomness is fine. It gives everybody good playing
Yes.
field. Everyone's excited to find a way how to win, no matter how random it is. It's a party game. But if a game is more serious, then obviously the what do you call this? The scale towards skill is always in play, but it's always to get still good to have a randomness in the game to make sure that there's still a way for people without any skill who actually play have a chance to actually, you know, experience a upset versus that of those people who
Mm,
actually have skills enough and has more experience in the game itself. So there you go. At least from a
yeah.
gamer's perspective, that's those are at least the things we consider when it comes to what kind of games we're looking for. If you want randomness, get a party game. If you want something less random, get a more serious game, but still with randomness. Because again, there's a group of people or a scenario where people don't like playing with people who always win because they have more time to practice their skills on it rather
Mhm.
than casual gamers. And casual gamers will eventually will would what not would want to play something else, which means that particular game won't show up anymore on game night because he'll always win.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Dwayne, I'm looking at you. Where's Dwayne?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's interesting because I experienced this from a game design perspective. So my game, Folded Wishes, the original form of Folded Wishes had zero randomness. It was almost chess-like, but for players. Uh, the randomness is how the board state would change, uh, and as players are playing, activating the tile and moving the actions on the tile, and then dealing with how people are playing, the only thing that they have in their hand is that tile that they will use. There's now a lot of options how to deal with it, but the player who has more skill in terms of understanding how sort of that four-dimensional board is actually it's really
Yeah,
somewhat four-dimensional, even if it's done on a 2D field. Uh, if if they have more skill, definitely they will win faster than the rest. So when it was presented and the publisher in US liked it, they brought in developers. The first thing the developer did was to put back randomness. They removed
there you
the
go. Yeah,
control from the players. So things that made the game, as complex as it did, they started removing those abilities away from players and moved them to skills, which you can earn over time. So it was very interesting for me. Right. I mean, I could have done that. I was thinking so much about the core experience that I didn't realize I needed to build up to it. And I
yes,
think in most modern game design, that's what they're doing now. Is that the skills and the things that you can do, sort of like when okay, we're really in the game now. Actually, the original design was that, but it wasn't a great experience if you jump in straight to that. There's no build up. There's no
yeah.
sort of
There's no
rallying towards that critical moment. So in most modern game design, we now sort of bake that in as part of the teaching process. Now it's also more uh, uh, players are able to enjoy it a little bit better because they can sort of learn by as they go.
yeah.
So that was my experience in how sometimes too much control is bad because if the game barrier for skill is too high, there will still be players for it. Yes, I mean a lot of
There will
people
be
play
yes.
chess, a lot
There's
of
always
people
a
play
market for that.
Go, right? So that's always there. However, as sort of like the general public, if your intention is for gateway design, more family oriented, then having too much control becomes overwhelming. So
Yes,
it's the opposite now, right?
I
No,
agree.
so randomness, I have no control. I have very limited options, and then the extreme for control, if there's too much control, it becomes overwhelming. Then suddenly you have now this new barrier. I don't know what to do. Everything is possible, and it's my brain starts to hurt. and they have to remember too many things, and now suddenly it's no longer as fun because it now becomes uh, a work task as compared to something where I get to discover and see how things work.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
The
what
fact that
games
there are
aside
actually
from chess,
choices. Yeah, yeah.
hmm,
Okay, okay.
aside from
Yeah,
chess
go ahead, go ahead.
and
Yeah.
Go, what modern Euros or even sort of American style games do you enjoy that gives you a lot of control?
A lot of control. At least based on my experience, tile games. Tile games. Well, again, there's always still a randomness. I can think of one game that I can have. I think Zango. Zango is a tile game, more like Connect Four, but more on
Mm-hmm.
tiles. Tama ba? Zango ba? Yeah, one of them. And then the fact that you control where to put it, your tiles, may it be 2D or 3D, you can put stacks on top
Mm.
of that.
Right,
That is
right, right.
strategy. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
fun thing about that game is that it's possible that no one wins at the end.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's possible that no
Interesting.
one wins at the end, that everybody was able to put the tiles properly in front where no one actually can connect to anything. So, connect their connect
Mm.
four.
Yeah. So it's like tic tac toe. So
Exactly, yes.
it's three
It
dimensional tic tac toe.
exactly, yeah. Because again, the stacks actually is being considered when it comes to controlling. So in that game, you have there's no randomness. The only randomness there is, I guess, would be where the people will be placing it, and yet,
Mm-hmm.
like chess and like the those other games with skill based, this is determined on how you place your tiles properly based on the given scenario that you see in front of you, which is very well, yeah, simple yet skill based. So as for me, that's one of the games that I remember that's fully on your control. There's no
Yeah. I
randomness
think
that you should.
abstract games tend to do that, right? Abstract
Actually,
games
that's a
that
good
have
point.
most of their information up
Good
front
point.
um,
Abstract games such
seems
as
to give you a lot of control, very little randomness. But at the same time, what's really interesting is that they can somehow figure out a balance that's not too complex.
Ingenious is actually a
So
particular
yeah,
very good
I mean, one
example
thing
for
that
balance.
I immediately yes, yes, because ingenious you have to pull from the bag, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a
That's the random
random.
thing of your tiles.
So
Yeah,
I think if all of the tiles are like completely available to you, it's gonna be overwhelming,
yeah.
right?
It's
It's like
gonna
you
be
have a
a
set of tiles and it's just a then it's gonna be overwhelming. However, I remember somewhat like ingenious. Clint showed us jetpack. That what's the name of that game again? Where um, so he
jet.
basically jetpack joyride. So
Yeah, there you
jetpack
go.
joyride. Um, you have these tetramino polyomino tiles, basically Tetris tiles, and you build them as sort of like his pathway to get from one stage to another. And so all you have to do is basically pick from the main pile and then connect it, move on to the next one, connect it. And if you pass through, loot, then you get them. If you pass through hit points, then you get damaged and so forth. So you wanna be able to get to the exit as or the sort of the end level of that scene. Um, and the way they were able to sort of because it is all of the information is there, all of the board state is there. They just made it. Oh, it's time based. You guys have to do this simultaneously and be able to like if somebody is finished, they sort of shout and then that's it. Then you guys count. Like oh okay, so it's like banana grams, but with like spatial elements. So
That's unique.
there,
That's nice. I
I
like
think
that.
when you create, I think game developers see a puzzle and say, hey, that's a fun puzzle. But if it's only just a puzzle, the barrier for entry is much higher. So they put a little bit of randomness back into it. One thing that I really like that is very open information. Players have complete control over it, but somehow it's still very much enjoyable and not over sort of daunting. Onitama.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Onitama, you
yeah.
only get to do three moves. All of your units
Three
can do
moves.
those three moves. You have two win conditions: either defeat your opponent's master or step on their throne or their temple. That's it. However, it's that constant. Okay, I have this move. I can play. I have these two moves. I can play this now, but that my opponent gets that a turn later. But I'm about to get that. So, what can I do so that I'm not gonna be attacked? But the processing the information is fast enough, I guess. That's why you still get to enjoy it. Because
Yeah.
the sort of the checks that you have to do, there are only four. Is it four? Four of your units and one master. I think there's just five on each side. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that's. I'm not sure if it's four. Maybe it's five or six. I don't think it's six. I think it's four. I will
It's
check
for.
my copy.
Baka with expansion yan.
Ah, no. The board has to change
Onitama.
if there's an addition. But yeah, that game is so good. Very simple. But yeah, in effect, you have a Mayano Damas there. So I think that's where you have complete control over things. The randomness is now back to the players, but it's very enjoyable. Uh,
Enjoyable, yeah.
you you don't take offense. Uh, so I guess is it when it's a very confrontational type of game, is it more acceptable if it's one on one? Because you're not saying, "Oh, you guys are ganging up on me." No, I'm you're my opponent. I don't have a
I'm
choice.
just better than you.
I will be attacked. That's the whole point of this. Is that how why? But then again, um,
Hmm.
games like Azul or Splendor, the randomness is what is when cards are revealed. But everything
Yeah.
that you decide, you choose to take
It's
new tiles, pretty much all yours.
all controlled naman by
So
yourself as a player, yeah. Now is it
correct,
more
right?
enjoyable that way? Yeah. Again, as you mentioned, having too much control or a pure controlled game is also good, but it's not for everybody. I mean, put it to
Yeah,
plain terms, right? No,
yes,
if it's
yes.
too random, naman, it caters to a demographic of people that actually loves, you know, whatever happens, as long as I'm with you guys, sige, why not? Let's play. It's again, party games are the most perfect examples for these things.
Hmm.
That there's no heavy skill involved. It's just a matter lang of finding out where's the
Mhm.
best place to move when this randomness happens. So something like that. Okay, it's also again enjoyable and
Okay.
mostly at least here in the Philippines, uh, party games are very much in demand. We like
Mm.
gatherings. We like to show relatives, our families, ourselves, especially if we can see our game group often. That simple games that everyone has a possibility to win, no matter how quote unquote good you are in the game or how experienced you are in the game,
Right.
you'll still eventually lose. So,
Hmm.
from the perspective of a gamer like me, I like this kind of things. It's
Hmm.
not about the game per se, but it's about how everyone gets together for that game and
I think
the social
if
interaction.
correct, I think if the game is random, there must be a payout.
Oh, winning,
I think the
winning
game.
is
No. I'm not talking about just winning because that's not a payout.
okay.
It's just an ending. The game actually with board game, winning is not that great of a payout because it immediately ends right after that. You just get
Oh
a
yeah,
brief
yeah.
moment and then you move on. So the payout. in sort of party story games is that the randomness gives you a great story or a great experience. And so now it is acceptable and it is fun to be in a random situation where you don't have control over things because the payout is fun. You get a nice tidbit of a story. I remember in Tales of Arabian Night,
Yeah. Oh,
I
wow. Yeah.
experienced
Yes.
having so much, like I was super powerful already. I had so much stuff on me, and then somehow I ended up marrying an Efrit that anchored me to this specific location. So it was funny because I can have a maximum of 2 tiles away, and then I get teleported back every turn. It's like
Oh,
I'm the
that
most
game is so
powerful, but
funny
I
for
feel like I'm
me.
a genie because I'm stuck. I'm stuck here. I can do everything. I can pretty much defeat anything, but I'm stuck here because I married this FA.
The Ifrit. My adventure with that particular game is that I was already rich. I was already good with my stats. Was really well enough, and then suddenly I got robbed. My legs were beaten up. Someone broke my limbs, and I'm like,
What?
what? That's it. And now I can't. I only move one space at a turn. I have zero movement. I'm like, oh wow, how how the randomness of that. And you don't
Such
want it to
such
end really.
tragedy.
That's the fun of it, and you're correct, Ron. That thick book in that game gives you so much fun to find out what's going on. No matter how
Mm,
weird or how random it is, you really want to know. And that's actually the catch of how randomness gets people to play more. It's a fact
correct.
that okay, let's human beings actually love the fact that in a setting where you actually rely on randomness, or in this case, let's say a casino, it's not how much you play, but the excitement of finding out if you win or lose. That's what I've learned throughout in my old work before
Yes,
years ago.
yes,
That
yes,
it,
yes.
parang people play
Yep.
not because they have money or they have skills to do it, but they play because of the excitement. They pay for the excitement that they get from a game. Parang lose the money, okay, fine.
Yep.
Win the money, that's great. But that's the end game. That's the again, I should say payout. But the immediate thing is that the excitement, the anticipation of what's gonna happen next year. You have
Yes.
no idea what. That's what pulls people in, which also applies
Yeah,
to
yeah,
modern
yeah,
board games.
yeah. You're right. You're right. So I mean, uh, Game of 49. So Game of 49 is this super simple. Uh, you have this board that's sort of circling around to 49. And
But then yeah,
your goal is to basically buy spots. And you randomly draw a card. It will tell you where that is. If nobody owns it, you guys bid. And then every time this certain number comes out, you guys get a payout. So people get paid based on the number of tiles that they have, which now gives them more money to start bidding. The goal is to just make again another connect four. You just need to connect four,
another connect
but you have
four.
49 spots. But what's crazy about it is it is completely random. Like you get this number and you really just hope that you get 16
Really hope.
and you're just hoping that 34 is somehow gonna be picked eventually. It could actually never show up. So if you didn't hedge your bets and spread out your options, it might not work. But exactly that sort of peaking and revealing, and this is what paid out, and people get, oh, there's a payout, yay, we have money. And so I get that sort of cycle where if the game gives you back a story or a fun experience, then randomness is totally fine.
Yeah.
As compared to, which is now funny because when I realize why snakes and ladders somewhat works a little bit better as compared to Monopoly, in terms of like acceptance in sort of faster of getting a player to play snakes and ladders, because in snakes and ladders it's funny to see people fall down.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
that's what you're after. Like, oh, you're back.
so
You're right. I'm ahead of you now. Get in.
yeah, and it's funny when you see them drop over the longest snake that brings you almost back to square one. But of course, at the very end, still had that stupid rule that makes you go back. Compare that to Ludo. I don't know if you know that. That sort of
Yeah, yeah,
cross.
yeah.
That game is
That's like
super boring because there's really nothing happening. You just like roll, boom, 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 roll, boom, 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 and your main decision is should I start a new one?
Para, do I repeat?
That's your main decision point. But anyway, so uh, I think we've learned a few things. So it is okay
Yes,
to have a lot of control as long as it's not overwhelming, and
yes.
you are giving players space to enjoy, the amount of control that they have. And at the same time, it is also all right to be very, very random as long as you pay for it. As long as you
Yeah.
reward the players the randomness that you throw in.
Yes, I
So
agree. That's
next
it.
time around, when I attend sort of game workshops and a new aspiring designer comes up to me, sir, I want to show you this game. It is completely random. I might not deny them
Yeah, it's more like
immediately anymore. It's like, okay, so why would it?
completely
I would now
random.
ask, so how do you reward players for your randomness?
Yeah,
Because that
that's a
might
good
be the case.
question,
It is
actually.
completely random, but how do you reward players for the two extremities? It's completely random, but I reward them with so much story. I reward them with so much content that it's totally fine. It's just basically a way for you to have an activity to read random books, as compared to you have complete control over everything, but I'll give that to you a little bit at one at a time so that you're not overwhelmed, and such that you now reach an enjoyable, pinnacle of whatever capabilities you guys have built. So I think that's the two balancing points.
What if
All
someone
right.
goes up to you and say, "Hey, I have a random game that requires a rat in a house, and it goes to a particular color when you put it down the board."
I thought,
No,
oh,
no.
I'm gonna give you a random game where you have a rat and it goes around in circle, and you have to fill in a quadrant, and so you have to move from this quadrant to the next quadrant. Otherwise, your life sucks,
and and the box has a
and
real
we will
live
charge
rat in
you
it.
ten
All right.
thousand pesos for it.
Yes, it's a live rat.
Yes,
Oh, the feria days, you know.
but the rat is trained. The rat
But
is
not
trained.
straight. Oh, that's you have to.
Have you seen
That's why it's
that
ten
though?
thousand
Wait a minute.
pesos.
Have you seen that? They were able to train rats to drive cars.
I've seen monkeys play Doom. Yeah,
Yes, those
but
are monkeys. I'm talking about rats.
rats to drive cars. How? Oh, I've not seen
Yes.
that.
So look it up. Look it up. They were able to train rats. At first was basically just be able to press forward, and they just go, and the contraption of where they stand in is sort of this small lorry looking thing. So when it hits the end, it pushes sort of the food uh, uh, gate, and
the,
then food
the
drops.
dispenser for the rats.
Yeah,
Okay.
the dispenser. But the way they control it is that they have to sort of lean into this lever and keep their hand there, keep their paw there, or whatever.
Oh, galing, yeah. I like that. That's control.
So,
That's control, folks.
yeah, yes, that is control. That's complete control, and you reward them. I think that's the lesson for today. That
Yes.
it is okay to go for the extreme or however in between, as long as there's an equivalent reward for that sort of cost that you give to the player. Cost of
That's
randomness and
right.
not being able to anticipate and control of what's happening, or cost of being able to manage all of the information that's available to you and all of the things that are happening and all of those, as long as the payout, the reward for you for being able to tackle that is enough, then the game is playable and it is fun.
It's fun.
All
It
right.
can be published.
Yes, there's a
It
chance.
can be published. The chance.
Well,
The chance to be
not,
published.
maybe not all the time. If your
Not all
intro
the
is
time.
this game, sir, is completely random, and
Yeah.
maybe not the best elevator pitch.
All right.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for the people that have stayed on stream. We hope to see you guys again soon at the gaming table. For people in Makati, we're trying to find new areas to form a game group there, maybe once a month. But I know in BGC, we have a few friends who are already running every Friday at Starbucks. And then we have one in Imus that also runs once a month, and PFRB, PF Resource Village in Las Piñas. They run
Yes.
every Monday. So I hope to see you guys at the table. Keep having fun, enjoying games, make time for breaks, make time for games, and keep safe. So until next time, thank you everyone for joining. Ron, bye.
Bye. Don't be afraid to be too random.
Yes, agree. See you guys. Bye.